Hello again, I'm back with the part 2 to the original video, the tie that ... Didn't really have like a follow-up to say to that. Maybe I'll change the title at some point or not or what have you. But the original tweet that sparked that post, I saw someone that I follow retweeted on Twitter, and that's kind of what inspired me to do the original post. And along with the other folks, the tweet, well, there was like, I think I commented and I said, this is embarrassing. And the person liked it and they got it too. This person's also a black woman, just like I am. And again, later on with the follow-up, a couple more tweets back and forth, and it became the, well, this is the importance of why we need fathers in the home. And anyone can argue that. It's like saying, this is why we need to not leave pot holders on top of a warm or hot stove, or even a cold stove in that regard, because you really should just always be careful and wary of, doing something like that. Basically, it's things that just obviously follow sequence of way things should be. You should not put the cart before the horse, etc. and so forth. The English language, and pretty much, I guess, probably most languages and cultures are filled with those types of instructions and thoughts on living, things that you do or don't do. But just from that stance there, I just have a few follow-up notes that I wanted to come back to. And I'm just going to go top to bottom and kind of flesh them out and maybe do a little round robin if needed. So as I was thinking about this the past day or so, the first note that I had is, why so much concern about young black boys, sans father, but not daughters? Because the tweet itself and the photo, especially the one with the young fella with, what we believe to be a white paramedic helping him tie a tie, it's become this common thing when there's this young black boy, we need to save him or protect him or fight for him or love him, uplift him. And as much as we talk about this in a lot of, more black women empowerment, enlightenment, what have you circles, we are usually strictly talking about this within relation to ourselves as black women. And also black girls, and those reflections of our own childhoods. And quite a few of the women who pop up in these areas are, somewhere in their late teens, 20s, what have you, so forth. And we can specifically cite, the term mammy, which, maybe we could talk about later, how we mammy for, black people, black boys, black men, the black race. So we always see these photos and these opportunities for people to basically virtue signal about, and that's actually virtue signaling about black boys and black male children. I think that's more towards a white thing, which I'm going to come to in another comment just in a second. But basically, why is there so much concern? I can't really think of any story or anything that's happened with a young black girl. We go, oh, that's why they need fathers in the home. I mean, I guess it's weird because it's like if they're twerking too much or they're like being Sharkeisha, that internet phenomenon a little while back with the girl just sucker punching and beating the shit out of some other black girl, then it's when they need more fathers in the home. It's usually the black boy is doing something, rather innocent, needing help with something like, just think of like some old story, big bug eyes, holding up an empty bowl, like, please serve my porridge. Like, there's this kind of like whimsical, wispy, big, welled eyes, welling with tears type of, that makes us want to help and uplift young black boys and men. But to trigger anything near some kind of parental or response about taking care of black girls, and it seems to be triggered by them doing something bad. That's not arguably bad. Like even using Sharkeisha thing for a certain point. I think nobody is weird because when that whole thing blew up, I don't really remember people saying, "Oh, this is why we need more fathers in the home," particularly. Now, I know that was said somewhere, but it was just the response was, "Well, she's just another bad little black thought, dumb whore, black bitch girl, f her, blah 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 blah," and it just falls like it's always something negative that triggers it, and then yes, the whole we need more fathers in the home note tends to follow. But it's not the same type of care and concern. it's almost this de facto like that black women and black girls, particularly black girls, are just this. We're just there and we're just kind of born evil. This kind of like, it's a weird kind of, we're just predestined to be such. We don't need any help or uplift at that age. It's just the boys. Okay. So my second note, and I'm just going to read it as I wrote it because this kind of ties into what I just said. Are we conditioned to see the black boy as something to save, adore, and protect while the black girl is just there? Where's the Finding Forrester or Blind Side for black girls? So if you recall, those are two films, one from like maybe the late 90s, the other from like the early mid 2000s, that among others kind of center around this typical narrative of some young black boy from the inner city. He needs help with, he needs help with everything. Or he needs help with everything because his mom's a crackhead, dad's like in jail or dead. And there's some white man or woman that kind of shows up in their life to help them find themselves and who they are. And so it kind of always, these films tend to, with Finding Forrester, Sean Connery is the main white male. I'll be full disclosure, I've never seen the movie, but I remember it coming out and a lot of the work behind it. I might have to watch this eventually, maybe do a case study on this and talk with you in depth, because there's a couple other films like that where these kind of narratives come about. But so just with the Finding Forrester, that centers around a white man, Sean Connery, who's actually the actual writer, Mr. Forrester. But then with The Blind Side, that's Sandra Bullock playing, based on a true story, black white woman. Her white family takes in this young black boy from inner city. He goes on to become this great, awesome football player, what have you. So typically, I think one thing to kind of compose, especially going back to the Ty story, there's just this narrative in real life and in fiction that we just use as black male. He's this trope there for black women and girls to save and mother, protect, go over to Black Lives Matter, march for, to Mammy for. Anytime there's something goes wrong with the black man, we're there with our capes on. But then on the other side, for the white woman, it's a by proxy type of child for her. Now, granted, this is like a narrative with women in general, us one, like what's the old biblical story with the baby wafting down the river wrapped in like palm leaves, this saving a child. That's something that's just common to use with women, regardless of race, regardless of ethnicity, because it just feeds into a certain biological function of what we do. But then we have that with women, with white women in particular, these stories. Then we have the white man, he already kind of is the grandfather of white Western civilization. And then with these particular stories, he can find himself again in saving this young man and bringing him along or bringing him up and uplifting him. So all in all, there's a whole lot of threads there, but basically what I'm getting to is there's not particularly, I would love for someone to comment and share some things that they think might be helpful. Because the funny thing is, we can turn to all these little examples and narratives, and then you may go post to someone, or I've seen this debate happen in a lot of comment sections where, some black man shows up like, whoa, you guys were happy to take white men's welfare and blah, 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 blah. And, that's privy to, if A, you are on welfare, and B, where the money's coming from is every single taxpayer white man. Basically, the de facto response being, well, white daddy, the white man, is predominantly the majority taxpayers in this country. So if you take any wicker welfare, you're taking money from the white man, white daddy, white Uncle Sam, so on and so forth. So I just find it very telling that in film and in fiction and in real life, with this whole story of these two ties, there's no problem with them being saved or uplifted by the white man. It's almost built into this kind of mythos, particularly of the post-1965 racial struggles and things that we've gone through in this country. It's interesting to be here in 2018, looking back at this whole arc where, this identity goes from A to Z and everywhere in between. But anyway, hitting a tangent there. So let's move on to the next note. How do we know that his father wasn't in the home? Because ... he died unexpectedly within 3 to 5 years before teaching him how to tie a tie. He's maybe, overseas doing a tour in Iraq. Maybe he's incarcerated. I mean, there's 1,000 reasons why he's not in the home. But on the flip side, how do we know he just is around, but he just wasn't there to help teach him to tie the tie? And that got me thinking about the way cultural norms have changed in this country, in the West and pretty much across the Western world, where you look at old photos of people prior to 1950 and 60. A man wearing a hat and a tie and a jacket was just very common. Everyone knew how to tie a tie. Even women did. Can you imagine anybody, race aside, being a mother like 4 or 5 young children on Sunday trying to corral the family to church? Everyone probably had to know how to tie a tie because it was expected that's how you would dress and go to church and to do other things. So a big part of this whole, well, his father's not in the home and, teaching him how to tie a tie, it just kind of circles around to like there's a lot of other things that could be going on, a lot of other moving pieces. But with this tweet and then the companion video that I showed you from Inside Edition shows that this all just supposed to evoke some response of feeling sorry for the poor young black man, his single baby mama, probably on welfare, no father figure or father or uncle or brother or cousin at home to show him anything, that he's wandering the streets willy-nilly before prom and can't tie a tie. Whatever. So then closing in on just those kind of offshoot notes and tangents, I guess what I want to just leave with here is overall on this, between the tweet and the video, is I want to ask, why is the natural response to assume he's being raised by a black woman alone, which leads to this whole, they need to be in the home XYZ business. Tying a tie is important, but not so much as passing on a business network of other black men to bond with. It's like this is where black women have really dropped the ball as mothers, as just black women in general, where we can sit around and talk about these brothers and how they dogging us. I just still can't fathom how this situation is as bad as it is. Things I didn't know within the past year and having to really explore this, because we don't all realize how we're participating in furthering this just, it's become just an afterthought. Well, he must be raised by a single mom. We need fathers in the home. Oh, single mothers, he must need a father in the home. And there's no unpacking, there's no contextualization, there's no asking. I mean, think about the whole coolest monkey in the jungle thing. Now, granted, because the parents took the money and said it wasn't that big of a deal, we found out kind of who they were when they came forward. But why doesn't anyone just go find this young man and his mother or father and ask them why he couldn't tie a tie? Then we can maybe get to the heart of it, to the bottom of it, and resolve some things. But we just keep repeating this tagline. Oh, father's not in the home, father's not in the home, single black moms, no fathers in the home. And we never ask, and black women never tell. That's going to be a key thing I want to start addressing here going forward with this channel. There's things that we won't say that need to be said now. They should have been said 10 years ago. They should have been said 30, 40, 50 years ago. And now is the time to stop all this, him and the hawing, even from us as black women. It sucks that we weren't told these things, and it really sucks that now we're sitting here having to live in this fallout. But a lot of these stories have to be told. And so just don't want to go too much over on this part 2, because there might be a part 3, but there's also 2 other videos I want to hit. One is an article I ran into when I was talking about the future time preference towards the end of the last one, where I want to hit on that. So let me just leave you with one final point. The person who originally tweeted this, who I really dig, I found her on I think Beyond Black and White as a commenter some time ago, and we still follow each other. She's a Twitter person. She's a MAGA person. So it's great seeing this awesome black woman with the natural hair. Team MAGA. Team Trump. And that was really cool. And I really love this person. I think she does a great job, and she showcases really great political insights, great food insights on her page. But one thing, when I got the response back about fathers in the home from her, and which I fully agreed, and pretty much all of her tweets I kind of pretty much agree with, but it kept nagging me later. It's like, this person is interracially married to a white man, has been for quite some time. They have 3 beautiful children, and I have to go pull the stat. I know somebody else probably could beat me to it, so there's other things I want to talk about, but. And there's no real comfortable way to say it, especially if I'm referencing someone in particular. When you're married to a white man as a black woman, look at the stats about how that staying power of marriages lasts longer than I mean, they even beat out black men and black women being married to each other. They beat out black men and white women being married to each other. And I think they either came close to, or maybe just alongside white men, white women marriages. It's easy, the father should be in the home, but then you and your own coupling is statistically stronger and better for that to be happening, for him to be in the home. So the original tweet kind of follow-up that she said was her daughter knew how to tie a tie because she was the only kids in her class, boys and the girls. I think there was quite a mixed race grouping in her classmates who didn't know how to do it for this thing. And I'm thinking, yeah, because your husband's in the home, but on top of that, he's a white father and he's in the home. Because, I mean, granted, you're seeing a lot more out of wedlock rates amongst whites. A lot of them kind of just, dating for a few months, having a kid, that kind of lifestyle taking a hold in certain segments of the white population too. So, granted, I'll add that. I know I work with and interact with quite a few white women who have white children with white men and they're not married. So, I'm not just going to just cast this on the all white men are just married, ward cleavers living in the home. But that also takes a little bit of bearing into it as well. And I just would just say, I think what I kind of would have liked to have found a way to cleverly or more thoroughly say in the tweet back and forth, to say, it's for you as a black woman that's interracially married, I think, because when we get this image of why the fathers are in the home, they see normal, darker skinned black women like you and me. Imagine us with some black kid with no father in the home. Now, granted, this usually only comes up when it's a black male child, not really the girls. We don't really ask what it's like for black girls to grow up that way, and the why. Not just saying that it happens, but the why, because I myself, as we'll probably come and talk about here, am definitely a product of that too. So I would just say it would behoove us as black women, and maybe in a situation, to stop just naturally reacting with that response. We know it's not the best. We know it's not preferable, statistically speaking, for all the stats. Oh, they're more likely to be on drugs, more likely to drink, more likely to promiscuous sex. And that's across all racial lines. We talk about unmarried parents. But amongst black people, there's a whole host of reasons why that's been happening. And even now in real time, we can also start to ask is why a lot more whites, of a certain generation are opting to have those types of relationships and just have children outside of wedlock too, because maybe we can compare these narratives and these stories that are actually happening in real time and find a way to maybe explore these issues in a way that's healthy and beneficial to all of us. So I'll just leave it there for this one. Take it easy, and I'll be back.